Hey there, everybody. This is Kaylee McMahon, and we've got a special guest for today. Very excited for many different reasons. So Kata Walters is our guest name today. I'm going to let her introduce herself. She's got so many cool things that are very unique in the multifamily industry and in the real estate industry. And again, I won't do her justice. So Kata, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm from New Zealand. Originally, I've been in the States for 10 years. I got into real estate investing only 3 years ago. I'm self-employed. I just took over self-managing, and I'm about to move across the country. So that sums it up in a nutshell really quickly. But some different... a few different things. My case is a little different than your traditional real estate investor. Also being a woman, of course, which is a big deal. Go women investors, right? Yeah. That's a little bit about me.
Okay, very cool. So what caught my attention at first, and then it took for a minute for me to kind of pay attention to some of your content. You're really good at kind of documenting the process, if you will.
Right.
Is my screen working?
Yes.
Okay. Documenting the process as you go, and even the dirty stuff, and even the icky, So one of the big things that we always talk about on this podcast, the book that I'm writing, you'll be on there. Is to talk a little bit about, the stuff that people don't want to talk about. So, for example, when you're starting a business, depending on what type of business it is, it doesn't matter. There's always a point in time where, you're taking out money on credit cards, to get a deal done, your first couple of deals or something, or you're living with your parents, or you're definitely like working different jobs at the same time. And so a lot of people think entrepreneurship is this really pretty shiny thing, and you get all this time to do whatever you want. But in reality, I think it's just very different. So there's always a point of struggle, and then you start getting some traction, and then kind of learn a more efficient way to do it. What would you say is your way, or has been your lesson to get that traction going, and how did you kind of come out on the other side from the beginning?
I think, in the beginning for me, so I'm a model. I work long days on set. I've actually retired more recently to focus more on real estate. So in the beginning for me, managing my time and just being able to handle everything, the numbers on deals, I was new, 3 years ago. I'm still learning everything now. I'm still learning as I go. But I guess finding the time to run the numbers on deals, research the markets, try and figure out where I was going to get funding from, and learning, the loan process. So like I said, being a model, I'm on set. I can't be on my phone. I would try and rush at lunchtime to I was on Zillow and, just trying to figure everything out. So as I've grown my portfolio, I have 30 units now. I do a few flips. Like I said, I'm self-managing now. Just kind of building the systems, trying to get better at delegating and assigning my time better, because I get pulled in every direction. I wake up in the morning at like 6 or 7 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I have a reasonable day today. Maybe I'll be able to exercise. Maybe I'll be able to look for another deal. Maybe I can do a post on Instagram. And then as the day unfolds, I have a plumber calling, a tenant locks themselves out. It's like another deal comes on. I want to look at the numbers on that. So I literally, when I spoke to you before, I just had a shower and it's 4:47 p.m. So time is very limited for real estate investors, right? When we're still trying to build everything and do everything on our own as well. So like I said, I've only just taken over self-management, 2 months ago. So I'm still trying to settle into building the systems in order to be able to continue to function on a normal level, instead of just being spread really thin at the moment, and have all these plates spinning. I feel like I'm in the circus or something, Luckily, I'm not modeling at the moment. I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky because, the income is great. As you know, it's great to have as much income as possible, right? To be able to get loans and to keep the banks happy. But with COVID, it's been difficult with work. So I've been able to kind of throw myself into real estate full time, partly choice, partly just necessity also. I'm kind of rambling, but systems, time, just trying to figure out systems for time right now and to get everything done,
What has been one system that you've implemented that you think has made a big difference?
Delegating tasks that take too long that can easily be done by someone else.
Yeah.
I think, and in the beginning, that was really hard for me to be like, oh, do I need help? Is it okay to ask for help? Is asking for help going to make me look like I'm weak or I can't handle it or I'm not succeeding? But I think just being okay with being like, you know what, I can have someone print my water bill notices and go to the post office and do that for me, even though I kind of like to do everything myself and I'm kind of like super hands-on. Time, it's just, again, we come back to that time. There's just not enough hours in the day to get everything done.
Yeah.
And I think, just asking for the help, paying someone to do those tasks that are just easy to scale and just send off and someone else can do it, you know?
No, absolutely. That's and you're creating jobs too.
Yep. Small jobs, but it's a step in the right direction, right?
Those will scale, you know what I mean? So I'm going to kind of veer from our traditional questions we usually ask because you've got kind of a lot of experience in just different areas and where you're at right now. What's cool is that we've had interviews with ladies who are just getting started in multifamily, ladies who are in Seattle and they only buy fourplexes. I mean, just different things, So I think that what you're buying is kind of within a range, but each of them are different and unique. So we asked that question in the beginning, that you're getting over in your business, what's the biggest thing? And then kind of what's the solution to that? Because everyone's struggling probably with the same problem at some level. Then the next question that we like to ask is probably what has been your biggest lesson?
Biggest lesson would be... What's been my biggest lesson? I guess just not just taking people's word. Like, I don't know how to word it really, but I think, especially in the beginning, I was very trusting and someone would tell me this is a great deal or, oh, the water bills aren't going to be much on that place because I have a place down the street, or, oh, I know the owner of this place. He does a lot of He handles maintenance well, and the fact of the matter is, after I've closed on several properties, these things, it's just like people will say one thing, but I really needed to learn, and I learned that quite early on, just go deeper and do my own fact-checking on everything, all the deals, don't just trust that someone's going to have your best interests. It seems kind of sad, doesn't it? But I guess I'm also very trusting, and I'll have a conversation with someone and they'll tell me one thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. I'm sure that's exactly how it is. But I've learned to really dig a lot deeper and really, fact check everything that I hear and make sure that I understand. And if I want to see the water bills, I shouldn't just take someone's word that the water is that much. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of small things like that.
Yeah. Your due diligence is huge.
I'm sure if we did this again in like a couple of weeks, I'm sure there's several lessons in the back of my head that I could share with the viewers that I know I've had a lot of lesson learning.
Yeah.
I just can't think what else straight off the top of my head, but that would be a big one.
Big one. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I mean, even still now I'm like, no. Even in my industry, it's getting smaller because multifamily. I don't want to talk about me, but basically I agree with you and I echo that. Even now, unless I've talked to like 2 people who have hired, had them do the work, and then that person has paid them, then I'll listen to them.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, did they deliver? Did you not pay? Like, at the end, what happened, Yeah, because the end is like the hard part most of the time.
Exactly. Also, just quickly, if I could add, I've noticed, self-managing now, property managers taking the property manager's word for it that stuff is being done, and that maintenance is being taken care of and repairs, and I've never second guessed my property manager in the past, but now that I'm self-managing, I see a lot of issues in a lot of my properties that should have been fixed or weren't fixed right. And I should have been more on top of that, I think. But again, I trusted them. They said they were taking care of the properties. The properties were cash flowing. Everything's great until I take it over and I get a plumber in to check a leak in the basement. And I'm like, what on earth has been going on here for the last 2 years? So again, trust, just believing people at, what they say right off the bat, but not really researching into that. So
right. I second you. Absolutely. Now, so we have obviously our biggest lessons that we learn in the industry, and sometimes they, it sounds like you're very resilient. So it probably was a situation where you're like, okay, well, let's just pivot this and turn it into profit. And it's not the end of the world.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I feel like in real estate, right, even the worst things that happen, the biggest lessons that we learn, and I'm learning a lot right now just with management, it makes us better, and I'm learning, and I know I won't do that way again, or I won't handle that situation that way. So even the hardest things still have a silver lining. So I feel like we can learn so much from it.
Yeah. And
it's just part of it. I love real estate so much that I don't even... there's been a few tears shed over the years, and it's hard, and it doesn't always go to plan. There's no guarantees, right, in real estate ever. But I think even the hardest parts teach me something, and I just kind of thrive off that. And I'm like, right, I'm going to do this better.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
as long as I don't do it twice. If
right.
If I do it twice, I'm mad at myself. But.
Yeah. So that's one thing that, you're right, in anything in life is I think if you're learning and you're progressing, I mean, a lot of people are too scared to even get started. And so they'll pay for these ridiculous programs that, there goes 30K, there goes 50K, there goes this, that, and the other. And honestly, the first deal that I ever screwed up, which was the first deal I ever did in single family, and then it turned into rental or whatever, long story short, was just that the price that I paid, which was basically a net 10 grand that I missed on estimating and whatever, is all it was.
Right. Yeah.
It got made up by flipping the investment strategy, flipping the exit strategy. You always have a couple different options,
Exactly.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. It's a cash flowing asset that's added to the SREO or statement of real estate owned. So,
Yeah. Similar
world.
thing with me. My first property, I didn't know what I was doing. I paid asking price in a super hot market. Cash flow was horrible. I held it for 2 years, and then I recently sold it for a good profit. Yeah. I mean, it was in Texas. It all worked out. I wouldn't say it was a great deal, but it got me going. Yeah. And you have to just take that first step.
Kind of get people's attention. Hey, I'm buying, that kind of thing. Yeah. Now, on top of your biggest lesson, what would you say so far has been your biggest win? Biggest
win was, I think... It's still my first commercial property, and I know it's small stuff. It was a mixed-use 5-unit building. I got it for $125,000, super cheap. It has been amazing. The reason I actually I sold the property in Texas that I just mentioned, and I was like, right, I have to make some cash flow somewhere, so I'm going to reinvest this money immediately into something really great. And I was looking for a while, and then this property popped up, and I was like, I don't know anything about mixed-use buildings. It was my first commercial property. I had a newer LLC. I'd never applied for a commercial loan at that point. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it a shot, and I'm just going to dive into this and make it happen. And it's been one of my highest cash flowing. It's been a dream of a property to manage. It's worth at least 3 times that amount. And I think that was a big win for me because I stepped well out of my comfort zone. I was still super new. I jumped straight into this commercial. Like I said, I know it's small. It's only 5 units, but there's like a store and, the apartments in the back. But it was a big deal for me. And I think it opened my eyes up to commercial financing. Yep. Looking at more commercial property, the mixed use element. I think that's still one of my biggest wins so far.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'll have to ask you at some other point in time about mixed use, because I'm kind of thinking that, doing a multi on kind of like this, but not with the garages in the back, but instead like medical offices, food, grocery store, something that's not going to go away.
Exactly.
Something like that. So, I do commercial purchases right now, but it's a different, so I'll have to ask about that at some other time.
Right.
And now that we have a few minutes left, 10 minutes, this is kind of great.
Because I talk so much. I'm sorry,
No,
guys.
you're so to the point. I've had so many guests, including myself, that just kind of squirrel, just go off on a tangent. So you're a very succinct answerer, which is great.
Good.
So that means we would do business really well together, because I'm very much especially in email, A, B, C, done. You know what I mean? Move on.
Yes. Yeah.
And so people are like, whoa, anyway. So I guess if we have a little bit of time to talk a little bit about you, what attracted me to your social media and to getting to know you a little bit better was the fact that you are very feminine and in modeling, you know what I mean? So that was something that I'm still in my head trying to figure out personally what I consider a strong woman, what is strength to me. And so growing up in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, camping a lot, kind of growing up with the things that I did, I actually associated being very feminine with being weak. And now that I'm an adult, I'm relearning all of that and learning that that's not necessarily the truth. That there are a lot of very strong women out there that don't need to take away their femininity, and they're able to still be successful just like you are. So, you being a model, that's also the other side of things. So you're not taking away your femininity, but in addition to that, I think that you can influence, and you probably already are, young individuals who are new to an industry where you're making a decent amount of money. And instead of blowing that money on, drinking or whatever, I don't know what models do for fun.
What do young people do these days?
Exercising, whatever it is. I don't know. You can actually at least a portion of it and invest it into things that cash flow.
100%.
I see it every time when my investors start getting checks. They're like, all right, what else you got? You know what I mean? Because they don't have to work for it. It just comes to you, So
exactly,
I really love that so that's all the things that attracted me to you. How did that happen? Being in modeling and investing, the interest, and how did that happen?
I think it came out of, I think I've always loved real estate. My father, as he retired from his, W-2 job back in the day, he sold large farms in New Zealand. So he was kind of doing it on the side part-time. I've always been obsessed with buildings and real estate, and early on in my 20s, I even looked at a warehouse, and I had this dream to convert it into apartments. I did not have the money. I don't know where I got the idea that would be a good idea, but nothing happened, of course, because I didn't have the confidence to actually pursue it. But I've always had a thing for real estate, 100%, looking back now. I lived in Japan for 10 years. I was modeling full-time there on contract. I moved to New York when I was 30, and it was really hard for me to get settled here and make a living. And I burnt through all of my savings, basically, through my 30s, just living in New York.
Yeah.
Not modeling much.
Yeah.
That was a massive wake-up call. I was able to get back on my feet, and I started modeling again, and had 2 or 3 strong years. And I was like, right, I have this small amount of money saved. I'm self-employed. I don't have a retirement plan. I don't have a 401k. This is it. So I either start a business, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, or I try and figure out how to make this amount of money work for me, but still be involved in something that I want to do. And I tell a story all the time, but cut a long story short, I was at the dentist getting a really expensive root canal. There was a Forbes magazine. There was an article, and it just stood out to me, and it said why investing in rental properties is, why everyone should do this, because of the tax advantages and just, income. And it caught my eye, and I was like, I have to try and figure out how to do this. And as a foreigner, of course, so I'm a green card holder, but I'm not a citizen. I was like, if I can get a mortgage, maybe this is something that I could sustain through the years as I get older and I can't model forever.
Right.
And like I said, my back was kind of against the wall. And it was that moment where I was like, I'm in my mid-30s and I need to do something with this last bit of money that I have and make it work.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just a wake-up call. And combining my love for real estate and being able to use those resources from my modeling career that I nearly burnt through all of, that kind of just made sense. And then I did one, and then I was like, I quickly saw how I could accumulate passive income. Not so passive at the moment because I'm managing, but nevertheless, I don't have to go into an office and do a 9 to 5, So, I mean, again, the thing is, I wish I had known this sooner. I wish I'd had someone to help me get into real estate sooner when I had the money back in the day in my 20s when I was making money. I would love to be able to help other models get into real estate passively, because it's the best thing that you could do. So,
I guess what would you say to your 20 some odd self that, you're starting to ramp up your career and make good money, that you think, maybe a diagram or something that you could have seen or someone, you know what I mean? Like, what would you have used? Like, if somebody that was you is watching this right now, what would you think would have at least gotten your attention for a second?
Oh, I mean, I think it's just, I was attracted to the stock market because people had kind of said that's what you do with money when you have some, or like you put in a savings account, but you have no control over it. It's not stable. I would say I would draw a diagram. I'm horrible at drawing, but I would just put houses. It's like Monopoly. It's like the nice thing about real estate is it's you can stand on it. It's land. You own it. They're not making any more of it. It's a stable investment. You can have other professionals help you, like help you manage it and do all the hard work, and you can sit back and just own a piece of something that you can touch that's not going to crash. I think I would just make a really pretty picture of it with some models and some houses and just some dollar signs or something. I mean, it's not, I wish my eyes had been open to it in my 20s. I wish I could go back.
Yeah, and I was stubborn, honestly, putting myself in that age bracket or whatever, being in sales. I mean, I was really good at it, don't get me wrong. So that was why it was kind of hard to, kind of like, modeling. You're good at it. You're like, well, what else do I need? I'm good at this. But
exactly,
it doesn't last forever. And you're like, so that's
the other thing.
It never hurts to have an extra $3,500 a month or another $10,000 a month. I mean, it doesn't hurt anybody. Because you might break your leg or, who knows, So I would have probably said, look at these individuals who are the wealthiest people on earth and what they're able to do with their money. They're able to have family offices and things like that are able to give back. And you can't give back if you don't have money, honestly. And you can't give back physically if you don't have the time to do it. And, anyway, so it's the quickest wealth builder. I mean, real estate's not something to look over.
100%.
Yeah, I used to think it was like a salesy thing, and I was like, wait a sec, no, I do sales. Like this.
Yeah, no, and it's not at all. And I'm amazed at how many people don't understand. But I mean, when I first figured it out myself, I was like, am I in some kind of secret society? I'm like, why isn't everyone investing in real estate? The tax benefits, I mean, it's just like an endless amount of amazing reasons why you should own real estate. Yeah. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. But, a light went off in my head. But like I said, it wasn't until my mid-30s. So that's unfortunate. But I'm making up for it now.
Well, I know people in their 50s, 60s that have never gotten there. So, I mean, anyone who listens, I'm trying to kind of poke it a little bit. For me, actually, when I went to Australia by myself and lived in a car for 2 weeks, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it was, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the first time. And I was like,
that was my first book. Exactly.
Oh, okay. So you get 4 red houses and then you get the big green hotel. Oh, okay.
Like said, I was great at Monopoly as a kid too. I'm surprised I didn't think more about that. I hate playing Monopoly now, by the way.
Yeah. you're a kid. Yeah. This frame is taking 4 hours. Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I guess in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's actually kind of hard to grasp, especially if you're a really small kid or young kid. But they have a cash flow game that I've played, but it's kind of hard to grasp because some of your positions are you're an attorney, and it doesn't need to be a certain profession. What they're trying to show you is the type of profession you have might be lucrative for what you're making that year, or like what your tax advantages are that year. But the one that at the end of it that's playing comes out on top is the one that it's long-term steady growth. So even when you see your net that you're making on a rental, if it's like, oh, I get 100 net, great, keep going. Yeah. So that's awesome to hear from you, you know, that you've been able to have that light bulb, have that moment, and then you're influencing other individuals, you know, that are models or that are young women. That's awesome.
I really try to get it across that, like, if I can get started in real estate, woman, foreigner, self-employed, didn't have a W-2, so I had 1099, very fluctuating income, still managed to get started, still managed to get loans, young credit history, because I only moved to the States 10 years ago. So that was another thing. So it's all these roadblocks kind of against me that a lot of people be like, oh, but I don't have great credit, or, oh, I don't have that much saved, I can't get started, or, oh, I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. I didn't even finish high school. I left a year early to start modeling overseas. So, and I just spat. So I try to really get that across. Like, if I can make that happen, anyone can do it. And now I have 30 properties. I can live off the income. You know, I'm still building and learning, but you have to make that first step. And there are people that will help you do it as well.
Well,
you know.
I want to get a little technical. I've got like a couple of minutes, if that's okay. We have about 4 minutes left. And so how did you do that? You know, literally in the process of, I'm getting a roadblock of, you know, not having enough credit. I'm getting a roadblock of not being a citizen. How did you get through each of those barriers? What resources did you need?
So what I did was, I talked to a loan officer, and I said, right, I had 2 years of like a good income through modeling, and he said, we need to try and get as many loans done in your personal name while you can off this income, because anything before that we couldn't have used because it was terrible. And moving forward, I knew work wasn't going to be as good going forward. So we had to push through as much as we could within that kind of time frame. I used private money later on, of course, in order to scale. As soon as I ran out of my own savings, I brought in private money. My husband's mum was my first private lender. She loaned me $18,000 for a down payment on a property back in my humble beginnings. And the credit, I mean, I extended credit lines. So I tried, you know, I paid all my credit down. I stayed off my credit cards. Basically just squirreling no more shopping, squirreled everything away, tried to make my bank accounts look decent and manageable. Luckily for me, the market that I was targeting, all the properties are under 100,000. So I wasn't dealing with like $500,000, $600,000 loans or anything. So it was a manageable amount for the budget that I had. And then, you know, slowly seller financing, of course, some creative financing, which is great when your credit's not strong or you're trying to build it back up.
So meaning that they financed it to you? Owner finance?
I'll buy a property, they hold the mortgage for me. Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't run my credit in that way, and then it's not, you know, it's just kind of easier when you're starting. So
hey, I still do that multifamily. I'm like, are they willing to sell or carry? Yeah, a portion of it. Okay, great. That means I only have to get 60% LTV, and then they'll cover the remaining on.
I mean, it's still great, right? I mean, I just put another property under contract, seller financing. I paid a little more than I probably would have liked to if I had just gone to the bank and got a loan. But I have zero interest. I'm just paying him a principal. So yeah, creative financing, and then just kind of working with what you can do, because everything, especially with these creative financing, and there's so many lenders out there. There's ways to get things done. You just have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
And just start somewhere and then just grow from there. And it gets easier. The first ones are kind of harder.
Yeah. Did you have to get a co-signer for anything, even once you did the seller financing and maybe got your first?
I didn't have to get a co-signer. And I'm quite happy with that, because I'm very like, I want to do everything on my own. Although now, to be honest, I'm way more open to partnering, syndication. I feel like I've got to that point where I'm like, okay, I've managed to do this on my own, but in order to grow even further, it would be nice to bear the burden with some other people and do some things together, Yeah. But yeah,
I had to do my first deal. I had to get a co-signer, and I didn't have to, but what ended up happening was, it was actually a guy I was dating at the time, and they wanted 3 more months of income. And so I said, okay, well, we'll just wait, to buy this house. And they're like, it won't be around in 3 months. So without telling me, he co-signed on it, and the banker was his friend. So he was like, it's fine. This guy's got like hundreds of properties, So I was like, I really didn't want you to do that, but, whatever. Once you refied out, he's out of it anyway, but,
Yeah, you do what
done.
You can.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing with real estate is everything, you can figure it out. Like, everything is, what's that word? Like, you can change it.
Flexible.
Everything's negotiable. Yeah.
Negotiable, yeah.
Basically. And I've really enjoyed, making the move into, when I started my LLCs and then moving into the commercial financing.
Yeah. Way
better. So much easier. They don't ask me what I had for breakfast.
Yeah.
And
why were you gambling? It's like, what?
What? Yeah, I know. And recently, my husband and I have owner-occupied property under contract in California, and we're waiting to close on it. But I was just so drained by the underwriting process, and they wanted everything. And like, I really do not enjoy conventional financing. We managed to get it done, of course, but I can't wait to do another commercial loan where they're like, how's the property, it's more on the property. It's not like my personal
DTI
income,
or sorry, debt to income ratio for anyone that's listening. Because I've even had problems refi cashing out, single families I've had, and it's not a big deal on like these large multifamilies. They go by the income of the property versus my income, and the way that I structure my income, it goes in certain buckets like K1 income and things like that. So it doesn't look like I have income, but I have income. It's just not taxable because of the way we're structuring it. So
100%. Same with modeling, like I had an S Corp set up for modeling to help with, all the self-employment taxes and everything. And so on paper, I was, all my expenses, I had to make myself look good. So I get to write all that stuff off, but like on paper, it doesn't look like I made much at all there for a while. So it is difficult with that.
For single family,
but you find the right banker. And I like working with smaller banks, local banks that are local to where I'm buying properties because they understand better.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, don't go to the big banks. Like, go and, try and get less down. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, oh, I went to Chase and they're making me put 30% down on this duplex. And I'm like, go to a local bank. Nothing against Chase. I love Chase. I do business with Chase, but not mortgages.
Right.
So the local banks I've had more luck with getting, having to put less down and better terms.
I agree. So for anyone that is listening or reading this, so if someone's got a question about going through the same things that you've already been through, kind of wanting to either learn from you or like shadow you or find more of your content to kind of, because you document the whole process, or like for me,
I try to.
You do. And so for me, I'm in Phoenix right now, and we're going to go tour one of my properties here. We just had a big fire, so we're going to go. The adjuster.
Oh, no.
It happens. Whatever.
Insurance.
Nobody died. There's a $2 million check right there. So it's $2 million added to the valuation right there. So at a, what would be like closer to a 5 cap rate here, because it's really gotten compressed since we bought it. But so if someone needs resources, so what we're doing is touring that, with someone who does more of like 5-plexes, 18-plexes, whatever, and she's like, I want to walk one, something like that. How could somebody get a hold of you or ask questions and be able to be respectful of your time?
One of my favorite things is just helping people. So I try to at least every day respond to as many DMs through my Instagram.
Yeah.
Just kind of help people out, especially those interested in my market.
Yeah.
I'm not as experienced with other markets, of course, but I find most people kind of reach out as far as, I'd like to get into single family or the smaller multi stuff, or I'm interested in Syracuse, New York, which is where I invest.
Yes.
But I just tell people, send me your questions, reach out, ask me, I'll get back to you. I've got back to every single DM that someone sent me, and I really try to set that time aside every day. It's part of my time scheduling. I'm getting better at it. To just help someone, because I didn't really have that when I started, and I realized I can make a difference, with the newer investors, just giving them that extra little push, or just a kind of a little support, a little hand on their back, like, you can do it. I just DM my Instagram at the model investor, at the model.investor, and I'll get back to them and help them. I'm not on site often because I'm out of state, so I'm an out of state investor. Until I move to California, where I plan to hopefully do some flips or something, where I can finally have the dream of being able to drive on site and walk a property while it's getting done. Right now, it's not like I can meet up with someone and be like, let's go look at my rentals in Syracuse, because it's like 5 hours away. But as far as questions on how to get started, or like just advice, DM through the Instagram. It's the best way. We'll take care of everyone.
You're awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for spending your time and your effort and your energy. I know it's spread everywhere right now. And so right
Can
exactly.
you tell?
No. I mean, I was going to say, like, right now where I'm at, it's hot, so I'm just doing the bun thing because it's easy. And that's another funny thing about being a woman, in this industry. Like, for me, I mean, I don't wear any makeup. Like, I have
Me either.
Yeah, I have
You've got great skin, by the way.
Thank you. I've got my eyeliner tattooed on and my eyebrows tattooed on, and I don't do anything else because it's just, like, and then put your hair in a bun, because you kind of have to not play with the boys, but, like, I have to have enough of my me time to work out and do the things I need. So, I mean, I'm going to cut the other time out of doing my hair, like
Exactly.
whatever.
I usually try and do my nails, but that's kind of fallen by the wayside at the moment. But I'm going to work on that. That's
what I should do for, like, sessions of someone who wants to sit down and, like, they say pick my brain. I'm like, let's go get our nails done. Like, let's
get your nails done. I mean, that's smart.
Yeah.
You can't get a massage because it'll be
Multitask.
too mumbled. But get your nails done. That's a good one. Get your nails done. I'm going to remember that.
Multitasking.
I like that.
Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, for tuning in. You're on East Coast time. I'm on Pacific Coast time right now. And I actually look forward to kind of following you some more and seeing a little bit of the progression, how it changes as this market changes, because that's always the next step to learning is the market changes,
Right, yeah.
Awesome.
It'll be interesting driving across country, heading over to the West Coast, but planning to still self-manage my properties on the East Coast. So I'll be getting up at like 4 a.m. California time, I think, just to take care of everything. But it'll be interesting, and I think I can handle it. We'll see.
Absolutely.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in today and for reading this chapter of our lives and some really great lessons and some wins that we've had. And I look forward to seeing y'all either next week on the podcast or, next chapter of the book.